Scott just made the point.
Jefferson seems to be a lot more secure, not just.
Long before the now infamous "I can't breathe" arrest in New York City, the Big Apple's mayor, in fact, long before he became mayor, Bill DiBlasio, and the NYPD were not exactly bosom buddies. DiBlasio is about as left-wing as you can get in American politics. He's far to the left of President Obama. In fact, he's so far to the left that he's further to the left than Senator Obama, and may, in fact, in many ways, he's New York's version of Chicago's community organizer Obama. He's that far left. He's a Saul Alinsky radical. So the assassination of 2 New York police officers has thrown a national spotlight on DiBlasio's long history of siding with protesters and criminals against New York's finest. Former Mayor Rudy Giuliani went so far as to say DiBlasio had blood on his hands. And police officers turned their back on their own mayor en masse in a shocking display of the rift between City Hall and the NYPD. So let's bring in Steve Green and Scott Ott, because when you get right down to it, guys, I don't actually really want to talk about New York or even about DiBlasio, really. I want to talk about something much more troublesome. So, guys, here's how it seems to work to me. In a civilized society, we appoint just regular human beings to jobs in politics, the police, and the military. We collectively agree that certain regular human beings, cops and soldiers, will be given extraordinary powers, including the power to kill, in order to maintain the one thing that makes civilization civilization, which is the law. Now, for this to work, the regular human beings doing this dirty work are outnumbered, and they depend on what's called the color of the law, which is really blue or green, depending on whether we're talking about police or the military, for not only their authority, but for their own protection. In other words, the regular human beings out there with the guns have to know that the politicians have their backs. Now, Steve, you've got a trifecta segment coming up about how military support for Obama is at historic, even kind of unbelievable lows. So my question is, can leftists like de Blasio and Obama, whose entire political position is to side with the protesters against the police and the military, be trusted to command either the police or the military or any other organ of the law?
No.
Okay, then. Care to elaborate, or is that the full scope of your answer,
Nope.
which is a perfectly good answer? Okay, Scott, period. That's about the best answer you can get in a case like that. You know, during our conference call, Scotty, you were mentioned that there was an editorial saying that, hey, just because you speak out against choking a person to death doesn't mean you're in favor of killing cops. And my attitude to that is, yeah, you know, that's fine for an individual civilian to say that. But when you've got the megaphone of either the news media or the bully pulpit of the presidency or the attack doghouse of the Justice Department, this perpetual siding with Trayvon Martin and Michael Brown, despite the fact there was no evidence, there was nothing there, you don't get to just walk away from responsibility for this kind of thing, do you, Scott, or can you?
Well, I think that column, by the way, I can't remember the author. It was somebody I hadn't heard of, but he was in the Washington Post. And I think this is what the left wants but can't have. They want to be able to have their policies and their rhetoric without consequences. Right. And they think it's okay that they say anything. You know, when you're standing there leading a rally that's saying F the police over and over again in the face of the police, and then an American citizen frags a couple of them, you know, F the police takes on a new meaning. And you can't call for that and then say, oh, well, we didn't mean that. What we meant was that you were supposed to feign outrage and have intellectual angst. And as many college students are now doing, apparently law students are doing at some of our major universities, begging their professors to be allowed to skip their finals because of the existential angst they're suffering from these grand jury failures to indict. You don't have it both ways. There are consequences for speech. And as for the mayor should have handled, it's his staff. If there's corruption on his staff, if somebody's being abusive on his staff, he's responsible for handling that staff. You don't stand up in front of the public and humiliate your people and then expect them to look you in the eye and salute.
Right. If it's a person saying F the police, that's one thing. If it's the mayor of your city or the president of the United States, now you're talking about the kind of problems I'm talking about. Because look, folks, it's actually really simple. First of all, you can't have your cake and eat it too. And second, there's no such thing as a free lunch. And all that means is you cannot come to power by taking the side of people like Occupy Wall Street and then who just do nothing but condemn law and society in general as just fundamentally unjust, gin up racial and economic tensions to maintain fever pitch with your base, and then blithely say you have nothing to do with it when the country starts to burn. The left has always hated the military, and they've always hated the police. Now they're in charge of both of them. And if the regular human beings in blue or green start to turn their backs on the ones who are supposed to have their backs, then the thin blue line and the thin green line will no longer hold. And then the mobs of the Occupy movement and the Ferguson rioters and all the rest will really rule the streets of America, and they are not going to check our voting records before they extract the fantasy revenge for the fantasy outrages that have been sold to them by these communist agitators. For PJTV, I'm Bill Whittle.